Welcome to the EdListen podcast with your host Bjorn Berendt and today's co-host Joshua Morris, aka Profe. Hi, Profe.
Hola.
This is episode 1, EDU on Air Conference and Language Tools, recorded October 12th, 2012. Okay, well, I'm here with, this is episode 1 of the EdListen podcast. For those of you who've followed me in the past, I've had the Google Weekly podcast, and I've changed jobs, or kind of half changed jobs, and my podcast station has changed, and now I'm at a different school. I have some co-hosts like Profe.
See? These one-word Spanish answers are great.
And I'm hoping to grab a few other teachers and curriculum coordinators from this SU onto the podcast. And I've been working on a student podcast for the school too. So a lot going on around podcasting. With that, I decided to change the show up. I didn't want it as focused on Google Apps, but I wanted to move it to more toward education. I'm still going to have a Google Apps section in here, so please keep an eye for that one. And with that said, I wanted to kind of quickly talk about, I lost my place already. Oh, so you gotta help me watch the show notes here.
Okay.
So I'm recording this Friday at 3:00, and that's pretty much the time I have to record this show. So if for some reason I am sick and it gets missed, or some reason the school's closed, the show won't get recorded for the week. But I'm going to try and do this weekly. So please come back to the website. It's edlisten.com and follow the show from there. And my Google roots aren't going away, so I'm going to keep some Google News in here, but it's not going to be as focused with that. And with that said, I want to talk about, I was going to talk about what's new in Google, but they have a new feature, and this is one of the reasons why I love the fact that Profe's here. Because in Gmail, and I noticed that it's also somewhere else that I didn't show Profe, so I'm going to show them a little cool trick in that. But in your Gmail, if you go to the sprocket and settings, and you click on settings, I'm waiting for it to go, enable import tools, and you have to actually click the, the language and enable import tools. One of the tools that they have now is basically virtual keyboards. Now, Profe, how have you been doing this in the past? Because I know you've had to deal with this.
Well, up until just yesterday when I got my computer rebooted with a Spanish characters keyboard, I was using the great alt codes that are taped to the right side of my laptop with the numbers and the corresponding alt code and what Spanish character they get to. So, like, for example, you want to type, the word también, for example, which means also, and you want to put an accent over the E to complete the word. Well, you type the word T-A-M-B-I, and then you pause, and you look at the right side of the keyboard, and you look down, and you find that it's Alt 163, and you hit Alt 163, but nothing happens. Then you realize your number lock key is not pushed down, so you push your number lock key down, you backspace over the page up that you accidentally did because your number lock key wasn't down, and you hit Alt button again, and once again 163, and it either does or it doesn't work. But by now we've already spent 20 seconds on one letter of a 7-letter word.
Oh boy. Yeah, it was. So this new feature is only available in Gmail right now. But if I know Google, they're really going to expand this out. And I noticed that they actually have an official app in the Chrome, built into Chrome, which I'm going to show you in a second. So at least this way, it has a keyboard. So you click on it, and you kind of click the little keyboard, and you can specify them in Spanish or Espanol. And right now it's not. Oh, there it is. And it's the actual keyboard layout for whatever language it is. And something I've learned, because one of the other schools I work at has a huge influence from like Chinese students and other countries. Their computers that they bring in, the keyboard is completely different.
Sure.
It actually has the Enye and the other keys on there. So what Google did is bringing that virtually in.
And it's not laid out in QWERTY either.
Yeah, I mean, I just opened up the French one, And where we have QWER, they have AZER.
Yeah, I was living in France for a few months in between semesters when I was studying in Spain, and during the summertime I would go into France because I wasn't in school anymore, and I got work on one of the ski resorts in the Alps. And anytime I went to a youth hostel to, get online to talk to my friends, I would have to really take a long time studying the keyboard because the Spanish keyboard and the English keyboard are basically the same. It's in QWERTY, except for, and I'm sure they know what QWERTY is. People are listening, right? It's the
QWERT.
Yeah.
Y.
TY. It's laid out by letters that are most frequently used. That's how it was developed, so that the fingers lay naturally on top of the most used letters. But so in Spanish and in English, that's the same layout except for the ñ and except for the upside down exclamation point and the upside down question mark. It's the same in Spanish and English. But then when I would go into these, youth hostels or internet cafes that had the French layout where the A was where the Q used to be, it was real tough to get it. But something I noticed on this virtual keyboard is that teachers of French and Spanish together could really benefit, because as I had a keyboard loaded into my computer to get Spanish characters, to do the same for French, going in between the two, you might have to reboot your computer in between classes.
Yeah, well, there's several different language things in there. The other thing I wanted to talk about, though, with this is if you're using Google Chrome, and I haven't got to show everybody this because we're still kind of waiting for Google Chrome to show up in the school system here. And do you use Google Chrome at home?
At home I do, yeah.
Okay. Did you know there's a web store with it? Have
No.
you ever? Yeah, if you hit you're actually kind of mentioning this because you said you're a Mac person too. Mm-hmm. If you hit the plus button on there, it opens up this new little window where you can see, I don't know, the recent ones you've had. And there's also these apps.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of mentioned this looks exactly like an iPad. Where
Yeah.
it slides back and forth and you have the apps. And it's, by design, it is exactly like the iPad. There's including a web store in here. So you can get different apps. And the apps either can show up on that new tab window, and they're essentially links to websites. But it's a great way to research things. It's one of the things I'm going to be talking about with
Yeah, I think
entire
that's
school.
kind of how apps were born, was that someone figured out that it's a lot easier just to touch a picture of a W than it is to type weather.com.
Yeah, and so it works out great, but it also has these up in the top corner right next to the URL, these little drop-down things you can do.
What is that, a calculator?
Yeah, I actually have a calculator up here, so it opens up.
So you load in your own icons of what you use most frequently?
Yep, I have a calculator. I have one that will capture screenshots,
cool.
couple bookmark ones, and Digo in there. A lot of cool little ones that come up from the top.
Oh, I like Digo.
Yeah, I love Digo.
Especially because if I'm looking at a website and have a great idea, most likely I'm not going to remember that idea. Like if it's an idea on Friday,
Yep.
I like to make myself a little note, and then when I come back to that same page, I can read my idea that I had, instead of hoping that I remember it.
Yeah, well, Digo, for everybody who's just listening to this, is a bookmarking. It allows you to do bookmarking, but
leave yourself sticky notes on a web page that you can come back to and see.
exactly. I call it annotating the web. I used it a lot in my master's degree. Every time I had to read an article, I just went to a Digo thing and just went crazy with it. And it worked out great for ePortfolio, because my final ePortfolio, I linked to my I made my comments public and linked to my Digo account, and they were all there with all my research notes and everything.
I wonder if they'll someday come up with a link to a bibliography program to where you can just kind of add a note card next to a citation and it'll automatically go right into your bibliography.
I'm sure there are some out there.
Probably already, right?
There's actually, again, something else I haven't got to show you. There's some research things inside of Google Docs, which I just barely introduced to the staff here, that does do automatic citations.
Cool.
So one of the ones that in the Chrome Web Store, I mean, Google has some built, but they have the same virtual. Well, that's a browser clipboard. Oh, where'd my virtual keyboard? Oh, I did it on that computer. That's why. There's a virtual keyboard up in the top right corner. And this is an audio show because you're not really seeing what we're doing, but it's the same tool.
Which icon is it up here?
Oh, hold on. Let me get up and move.
All the way over here. Oh, there you go. The white arrow. How could I not know?
Well, they have.
I'm going to click on this one that I don't recognize. Is this Mandarin?
I don't know. I just kind of threw. I think Greek.
No.
No, it's
Really?
Chinese. It's this Chinese simplified.
What did I do with it? It went away.
It's actually down in the bottom right-hand corner. Nope, bottom. Right.
My other right.
Yeah, your other right. This is the fun part about having it. Normally, I'll be doing a live. Hopefully, I can get to the live feed of this again. And move your mouse up, down a half an inch, right there. That's the keyboard. That's the Chinese keyboard.
It is?
It is. So
Okay.
yeah, the Chinese keyboard. It's surprising they have so many letters. Yet that's the simplified one. It has the Chinese simplified one seems to have 3 characters in it. I don't know how it works.
We're going to need a teacher that isn't a Spanish teacher to help you out, I think, with that. That's outside of my ability.
Well, like I said, one of the other schools, we have a Chinese student.
Uh-huh.
And there's a big language barrier there. So Chinese is on the top of my mind.
Well, that's cool. He could actually kind of write a letter maybe to his parents or something in between a break on assignments without having to get up and change computers.
Well, yeah, I think I'm hoping the virtual keyboard can help out a lot with, especially bringing in some exchange students and things like that.
Yeah.
And they're where they're used to the other keyboard.
Yeah, this is a shameless plug here. Calling all exchange students who are very talented at soccer to come to the Rochester area.
Oh man! Well,
I also coach varsity boys soccer.
Go Rockets!
Go Rockets!
Yeah. So yeah, that one little app is actually found in the web store, and I'm going to post a link to it in the show notes for this show. And it's a cool little app. I mean, I think it will work out. I had a little trouble using it with actual a Google document, but that could be any number of reasons, from something being blocked in this network, or from it not working in Google Docs yet. But I bet you Google will bring this to Google Docs soon. Usually, if you see it in one place,
is it in like beta right now or something? Or?
Well, the way Google Docs work, and actually my headphones caught on this. The way Google Docs work is they actually make updates every 2 weeks to their documents. And there's 2 tracks. There's either you get it immediately or you get it 2 weeks after it's released. So unlike like Microsoft Office or installed applications where you basically once a year you'd get the update. No, you basically, as soon as it's close, I'm going to say close because Google's known for being a little beta.
Yeah.
Include, a polished beta, I would say, they will release it.
A working finished copy.
Yeah. And then you'll see it kind of update a little bit
Well, that's
better.
kind of the idea behind Google Docs, is that you can create a finished copy and have people be working on it sort of at the same time as it's ready or considered done.
Oh, definitely. So that's kind of the new tools that I kind of found out with language. There's a couple other ones. And this is also really important because, like I said, one of the other schools I work at, we have Chromebooks, which is just Google Chrome. And so the Alt keys or the Option keys, I forget what it is in a Mac.
Yeah, Option E for it's real easy. Option E, and then the vowel will give you an accented vowel. Option N for Enya.
Okay, so on Macs and PCs, there's a solution. In the Chromebooks, I haven't really found a good one, so I'm hoping this keyboard will come about. And if you are a Chromebook user and you know the input tools for language, please comment on the show notes.
I was just thinking, could they do something like this with math to get up all of the characters from those really big TI-90 calculators? And because I noticed when I look down here, you have basic math.
Well, I know at least in Google Docs, there's actually an equation editor. So if you go insert equation editor, it has functions and things like that.
Okay.
So it may already have that functionality in it. Math teachers, let me know how good it is. I know some live and die by the paid Microsoft one, and others have found.
Well, if you do have math teachers that comment, I don't think I said the name of that calculator right. I think I may get corrected.
Oh, well, as long as you stay on the language stuff.
Yeah, okay. No hay problema.
I had so much trouble in language in school. I was the math geek.
Oh, yeah. I had a lot of trouble with math.
Well, it's funny because I did all my homework and I made sure I did all my homework and I studied for tests and I passed with a D. I just could not get past that D.
I think the most important two words of that sentence were, I passed.
Yes. And I tried. I mean, that was the big thing. It wasn't that I wasn't trying. It's just one of those things that didn't come naturally to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of the other things I thought was really cool is you're teaching an online language class.
I am.
I know it's the first year we're doing it in the school, so there are some, just some technical things we're trying to work out the kinks on and things like that. So, but besides that, what are you learning about? I mean, what are some of the struggles? What are some of the positives?
Well, not only is it new to us, but the school, the online school that I'm working for, which is the VTVLC, the Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative, also just recently leased a new set of language software called MIL, the Middlebury Interactive Languages curriculum. Mm-hmm. And this is a very advanced, very tough program that the VTVLC has leased. So as well as some kinks here at the school, we're also experiencing some difficulties getting used to this new program that they've leased. But overall, it's really good. It's really professional looking. It's very, very applicable as to the types of assignments are real life assignments, and it's not pictures like from a textbook 20 years ago of people doing things that we don't do anymore.
Oh, thank goodness.
I know, wearing style of clothes that are 30, 40 years out of date, and you really get some real life examples. It's an advanced Spanish class too. It's Spanish 3, and so the conversation that we can prompt is actually good conversation. But I am having some trouble with the idea of not knowing if the students are using an online translator or not, or reading right out of a translator, or perhaps writing down a script of what they want to say when there's a speaking activity. I am noticing a lot that it sounds like students are reading right off of something, and I think they're doing that because they want to give the right answer, and they're a little embarrassed to give a wrong answer, especially vocally. But that's part of the learning process, is that I listen to something said wrong and I can correct it, and therefore have them learn how to say it correctly or grammatically correct.
Okay, so
they're losing that fail and learn opportunity.
Well, I mean, I think that's a challenge for all language teachers is, when is the student using one of these language editors? And I don't have a very good answer, especially not being good at language myself. I can understand that it doesn't translate very well.
Yeah, beware out there, those of you who are doing foreign language classes. We can tell pretty easily when you are using a translator. If you put in something like, this drives me crazy into an online translator, you're going to come up with something about a car, and I'm going to know that you're not speaking from the head. In fact, here's can we go PG-13 on this podcast?
It's going to be dedicated to educators, so.
Well, this is an experience that I've had in the classroom, so if you want to edit it out later, you can. But I'm going to give you all an example of how I knew right away. Now, the project was to build a house, La Casa de sus Sueños, which is the house of your dreams. Construct a dream house out of cardboard. And one of my groups was putting shingles on their roof. And so you had to label all the parts of the house. And so they got into their online translator and they typed in shingles. And unfortunately, the word for herpes came out. Because as some of you may know, shingles is a form of skin disease that's, I guess, has something to do with herpes. Now, I'm not a science teacher, but so this student labeled his roof herpes when he wanted to label it shingles. So you can, man, I wish we had a video. BJ's cracking up. So you can imagine, that I knew right away that he had put shingles into his online translator, and that came out. So instead of asking me or looking it up in a regular paper dictionary, which has a little bit more definition, they went right to the translator, and that's just one way that we know.
Well, I think students are just used to doing that. So, I mean, we have to really teach them other ways.
Yeah.
One of the questions I have is, how are you... I mean, I can understand in an online class where you're getting the typing aspect of it. How are you getting the auditory aspect?
Well, this software that we use is built in with some software that actually has you plug in a microphone and a headset to whatever computer you're working on, and record actually you speaking the answer to the question or describing what it's asked to describe or answering, giving an opinion on prompt paragraph or something, and then it saves that answer. Mm-hmm. And then that's part of the teacher's work, is that I go in and I open each student's assignment, and I can listen to it, what they've pre-recorded, and I can grade it.
Nice.
And so that's how sometimes I can tell that they are reading it.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. We know.
See, I'm wondering if I would do better or worse in a current class.
But there are also some programs that have software that have voice recognition. So without the teacher having to go in, I don't know how accurate they are. Tell Me More is one program that uses it. You speak into it, and immediately you get a real-time response on how well you pronounced certain letters, depending on the recognition software.
Okay, so what was that website again? I'm going to put it in the...
It's the software is called Tell Me More. It's probably not the website, but if you put that into your search bar.
Okay, so we'll have to do that. I know Google Translator now has an audio thing where you type it in, you click audio, it actually does that.
Yeah, I know you're a big Google guy, but I really, really don't like Google Translate all that much. They haven't worked out inflection or things like that. But I do have a solution, if I may. It's SpanishDict.com, DICT.com, SpanishDict, and this is an online dictionary that's actually recognized by the RAE, which is the Real Academia de España, which is like like Spain's Webster's dictionary.
Yep.
So this one, SpanishDict.com, is a really good alternative to that. Not only will they give you the word translated, but they'll also give you, shingles can mean this, or shingles can mean that, and which one do you want to use?
Nice. So I'm glad. Yeah, I'm going to put all those into the show notes, and that's good. I'm going to end to one last thing with the language one, unless you have more to say. One school I worked at, I had a amazing student, absolutely crazy smart. He was my student tech, and what he'd do is he actually went and learned German in 2 years. He started it in 1 year, and he became a fluent speaker by the second year. I mean, this kid is amazing smart. Hi Topher, if you're listening. I think I got you listening to my other show. And he used to come into my office like any spare time he had and sit down with Yahoo Messenger. And the reason why he used Yahoo Messenger is because it allowed you to do chat and voice at the same time. Now Google kind of does that, and everybody does that, but so he went
without delay.
Oh yeah, without delay. I mean, you wait till we get to do Hangouts. You'll love that. And so he would be sitting there talking, and anytime they come up with an auditory problem, they would type it out. Or anytime they would run into a type out problem, they would, work it out auditory. And he'd just connect with somebody in Germany. And it was like the most amazing, that and read German magazines, but it was the most amazing thing. And I just sat next to him like, that is how you're supposed to learn a language.
Yeah, that's right along the lines of how I learned. I didn't do very well in language in school either, but I do have Spanish blood on my mom's side going back that I was able to stay in Spain with when I studied, but I didn't learn in school, and I didn't grow up in a foreign language country, so I had to learn it as an adult, which can be a lot harder than learning as a really young student when your right brain is developing. So when I got all these friends in different countries, I learned with Facebook. I learned with Messenger. I learned by having 6 chat windows open, two of them in English, 3 in Spanish, and 1 in French. And I would be just kind of having real time conversation. But the only problem is, I don't know if you've noticed how not our generation, but the new generation speaks in a text language that you need like a code to understand. Sometimes. Well, the same is true in every language. So I don't know how they got para and por, which is for. Mm-hmm. It's just the letter X. I don't know how they got that, but even foreign languages have their own kind of text code.
Man, and I'm hoping this audience is going to go out. And like I said, I know my previous show went almost a year, and I had a lot of people from all around the world. So that's a cool thing about the podcasting is it does go out all around the world. And I don't even think of that. And it's funny because when I first started podcasting just about a year ago, I thought, okay, I'm in Vermont and I'm pretty popular in Vermont circles, and that's going to be the people that are going to be communicating with me the most. And then all of a sudden I get people from Sweden, from Africa.
No kidding. How did they find out about EdListen?
Well, it was Google Weekly at the time, but it was basically, I put my, when you do a podcast, there's something called RSS, which is the same technology where iTunes pulls stuff from your podcast and where other podcast readers can pull from your website. So they didn't necessarily go to my website. They searched whatever search one that they do, look for podcasting, and I came up on one of the lists. So I just came up on their list. They listened to me each week, and it just surprised me, the worldwide audience.
Well, I want to take this opportunity then to send out a question for for English teachers, in Spanish-speaking countries. I would love to pair up some of my classes with one-on-one pen pals, to where they could Skype back and forth or chat, or as you were saying, hang out, and have each of my Spanish learning students pair up with an English learning student. And so if there's a foreign language teacher, if there's an English teacher in a Spanish-speaking country that would like to do this, please send out some communication for me.
Yeah, you'll be able to comment at the bottom of the show here. And I know there's some other websites out there, but like I said, I wasn't the best at language. So I've been kind of trying to get my language teachers on board with that. So please, if you know of a good way of connecting with other teachers, or if you are another educator in another country and want to connect, especially Spanish, let me know through the comments or send me an email. You have your teacher website here. You have an email on there? Mm-hmm. Is that something you mind me posting on the show notes?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, I'll post out Profe's, it's his class website that you have your students log into.
I just think it would be so cool to do a couple of months of chatting, and then at the end, open up a video and you can actually see who you've been speaking to this whole time. Well,
we'll get that working.
Okay. I have your word for it, PJ. That'll be up and running by when? Next week?
As soon as our listeners come back with, letting me know which way to connect, and as soon as we connect with somebody. And that's actually going to be something we're going to throw into the show. We're going to have a comment topic each week, which I'm going to be asking people to comment on the show or follow up and, give us some feedback, because I like hearing a lot from my listeners. That's what makes the show really amazing. So, with that, any last comments?
No, I'm really excited about you bringing this stuff into our school. For the last, I've only worked here for about a year and a half, but we've always, since I've known the administration here, been looking for ways to advance the school, make the school more tech savvy, and do types of things that are going to attract people to come to school here. I just think this is a great way to do it. I can't wait till the students start getting in on this. Yeah,
I was working pretty much all day on the student podcast, so that was a lot of fun building some graphics and things like that. Okay, so again, thank you for listening to the EdListen podcast with your host Bjorn Barent, and joined to me today by Profe, and I think you are going to definitely be one of my regulars on the things on Fridays.
Excelente, me alegro mucho.
And you can follow the podcast and contribute by going to www.edlisten.com. You can follow me personally on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. I do post out all the shows to those three places. And Google+ is probably the best way to get a hold of me. And I'm working on a voicemail number for the school, so you'll be able to actually call in and I can throw you on air. And I also encourage you to get the conversation going definitely by posting comments on the show. That's going to be a great big help for promoting the show and keeping the conversation going after the audio is done. You can also use the hashtag EdListen within your own social network. Again, thank you for listening, and never stop learning.